Set in a sleepy hamlet nestled in the majestic mountains of Baffin Island in the Arctic Ocean, SLASHBACK, a brand new film, opens as the village wakes up to a typical summer day. No school, no cool boys, except for one, and 24-hour sunlight. But for Maika and her ragtag friends, the usual summer is suddenly not in the cards when they discover an alien invasion threatening their hometown. These teenagers have been underestimated their whole lives. Using makeshift weapons and their horror movie knowledge, they show the aliens that you don't F with the girls from Pang. Welcome to the Con Guy Show today, everybody.
The Scare Guy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome to the Scare Guy Show. My name is James D. Fry. With me, we have who? Luke?
Cheeseman, one of the founding members of the scareguy.com and screenwriter.
That's right. We are both screenwriters, and we are so excited to talk today to Nyla Innuksuk. She is the writer-director of the brand new South by Southwest hit SLASHBACK, which is in theaters on demand and digital today. Nyla, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We are so glad to talk with you. We love talking with filmmakers, especially filmmakers who make cool films like this. Films, I love the idea of the films, the kids on their bikes facing down monsters, but also has kind of some deeper stuff to it. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about this film and about yourself, and introduce yourself to the viewers here.
Sure. Well, yeah, the movie is this kind of coming of age, weird little monster movie about a group of teenage girls in this remote Arctic community that take on this alien invasion. And we shot in the beautiful community of Pang. I myself am from Nunavut, from the Arctic, from a community not unlike Pang. I'm from the community of Igloolik, which is about the same size, but very flat. This community, it's also where my nephews are from, and it is stunningly gorgeous. It's kind of nestled in the middle of these gigantic mountains carved by glaciers, and so it was just this really special place to make a movie.
Yeah. Luke and I were both talking about, like, just when the movie started, we were like, man, look at the visuals, like the mountains and everything. This was just absolutely stunningly beautiful. And the indigenous people, can you talk about the people here in your background?
Yeah, I'm Inuit. Inuit is the plural. The girls and I are Inuit. I'm Inuk. And so we're from the Arctic, and so for me, it was kind of this fun opportunity to be making a movie that felt familiar in a lot of ways, movies that I kind of grew up watching. I was definitely kind of obsessed with Spielberg when I was a kid, and Goonies, E.T., Indiana Jones and stuff. And then also kind of making it in this place that also felt familiar in different ways. The Arctic and Nunavut is this place that is our home, and I think that it was kind of fun to show. I've heard from people that it was neat to see the girls in kind of this modern context, which was surprising to me, because I didn't think about making it in kind of a modern way, because it didn't occur to me to make an alien period movie. But it was interesting that people weren't used to. It made me realize that people weren't used to necessarily seeing modern teenagers, in movies. So that was great, and the cast themselves, they were just fantastic and so much fun to work with.
Can you tell us about how the idea came about, and kind of the way of kind of developing the story?
Yeah, I guess I have no idea where I've had this idea of teenage girls fighting aliens in the Arctic for forever, I think. I love aliens and alien invasion movies, and certainly hanging out with young people up in Nunavut. I was like, oh yeah, I feel like some of these kids could take on an alien invasion. And so it started out as I made a proof of concept for the movie, because I'd never directed. I hadn't directed before. I hadn't directed a feature. So I wanted to make a proof of concept that could essentially give the sense of tone and give a sense of what the movie would feel like. And so I cast and essentially had these acting workshops with young people and found a lot of the cast that ended up being in the movie. And we made this short film and this short kind of proof of concept. And then we're able to kind of build out the rest of the team and get the movie made.
So you just mentioned the cast and how you did workshops to find the cast, but were a lot of the cast locals to the area?
So the way it was developed, well, when I first was developing it, was I had this idea and no way to finance this thing. So it was, my parents lived in Iqaluit, which is the capital city of Nunavut. So I could go and stay at their place, and I was able to get some funding for this short proof of concept. And so, and to have these, to pay someone, a local actor, to help me with these workshops for young people. And so that's it. So the casting happened of the teenage girls, a lot of it in the capital city of Iqaluit, which I should say that it's still only about 7,000 people. This is not a huge place.
That made it so cool, though. Your setting was such a cool part. It was a character all by itself.
Oh my gosh, it was so great. And then it was really fun for us to travel to Pang for the summer. And then a lot of our cast, including Jackie, who plays the father, and a lot of the other kind of young local cast, were all, of course, people in Pang.
Oh, it's fantastic. Can I ask you about the 24 hours of sunlight? That was such a different setting for a movie like this. Usually, it's dark and foreboding, but you brought the horror, the thrills and everything, and the human interaction, which we'll talk about in just a second, but it was all in sunlight. Can you talk about that? Because I don't think everyone here is used to that.
Yeah. And I mean, I just gave myself challenge after challenge in the making of this movie. It was like, oh yeah, just make it all seem like it's in one day and you'll film it all outside. Because logistically, it's like the weather changes, especially in a place like Pang. The wind is crazy, and then you've got 24-hour sunlight, really only for 11 days, and then it kind of starts shifting. Mm-hmm. But there is like lots of sun in the summer, and it's so beautiful. And it's a time, I don't think people are really used to seeing the Arctic in the summertime and with all this sunlight. And so to be able to show this time of the year when really it's like the adults still have to go and do normal things like work, but the kids are out of school and the sun's out all the time, so you can kind of go out and you're encouraged to go out at any time and do whatever you want. And so it kind of feels like that the kids have a run of the town a little bit. Yeah. And so that was really fun. Essentially, at one point of the year, the sun just kind of rises up in the sky, and instead of like coming down, it just circles around for 11 days. So yeah, it was like this community was so special, and being able to kind of capture a bit of that magic was awesome, but challenging. Like, it was really, really challenging to get there and to work in this community that was so remote and was didn't have an infrastructure necessarily sustainable for itself. Like, there's a housing crisis in the community. There's not enough houses for the people that live there. And so for us to come in with this crew and was going to be this crazy imposition. And luckily the principals at the high school and the grade school let us move in for the summer. So as soon as classes ended, we shipped up 60 beds and mattresses, and we turned all of the classrooms into bedrooms. And so everybody had a roommate. 2 beds per classroom, and with the 24-hour sunlight, it's like these are classes with big windows, and so we had to like black out all of the windows so that they could sleep at night. But then it also meant they're living in these little caves inside the school, but the kinds of people that sign up for a thing like that are really special. And so our crew was incredible. All of our meals were served in the high school gym, like our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We all had together. It was like adult summer camp. And then when we had our days off, everyone would go off and have adventures in the mountains and go hiking and go on boats and go fishing. It was really, really great.
Now, talking about like bringing people together, like you were just mentioning there at the end, did the kids know each other before, or did they do certain things to get that kind of friendship feel? Because there's a big group of friends and stuff, and they did such a good job acting like they'd been friends for a while and all that. So how did you go about that?
Thanks. I think that the fact that we've been working on developing this for so long probably helped, because we shot the proof of concept before. And so they kind of and this is a small place, so they might not have been friends, but they would have been in the same grade, or maybe they went to a different school. And that was also an interesting dynamic, seeing different kids from different friend groups that might not actually hang out, and then seeing how they got to know each other, and then the things that caused friction. But then over the course of making first the proof of concept together, and then developing the script, and just hanging out repeatedly over a couple of years, and then by the time we got to making the movie, there was just a level of respect amongst the kids, and a comfort, because they knew each other. And so it was kind of amazing that a group of 14-year-olds were able to survive together, living together and working together. And Rory, of course, the boy, along for the ride too. It was,
I'm sure he didn't mind.
Yeah. But it was really special, the relationships that were formed over the summer, and they made so many friends, of course, in the community of Pang. And but we just spent the week together in Spain at Sitges for the film festival there, and we just have so much fun together. And we don't even have to hang out together anymore, but we do, and we like it. And so to me, it does feel really special that we still are. I mean, I'm obviously like kind of an auntie to them, but it's so nice to see them growing up with the movie, and kind of being able to rely on each other. And then Frankie is the youngest one, and is actually the younger sibling of Alexis, who's the one who had the bandana on.
Oh,
so
okay.
So it was, she was like little sister to everybody.
You mentioned the challenges and the challenges, especially with budget, but I'm going to pull up a photo here. When it came to your aliens, they were creepy, they were scary. And for those of you who are listening, we're showing a photo of one of the characters in the film who is encountering one of the aliens. And I guess I don't want to give away too much for those who haven't seen it, but if you don't mind, can you talk about on your limited budget, how did you had some pretty cool like CGI effects, and some, especially I remember the hand coming up and the alien crawling through the veins and stuff like that. There were some really creepy but scary stuff. And I love the way that some of the bad guys, some of the aliens, the way when they were coming and chasing, and it's almost like a body was in pieces walking. It was just in the bear. So attackers.
That guy is double jointed in every single joint.
We were talking,
Troy James is his name. He goes by Twisty Troy on Instagram, and he's amazing. He's so incredible. Excuse me. But it was really fun to kind of, we didn't know that this guy existed when we created the idea for the aliens. And Brian Kapp, my co-writer, and I, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would be a kind of cool way to show these creatures. And we landed on these creatures that are basically all made out of tentacles, and they take over animals they kill and use their skins as disguises. And then it's like, how can you give that look of having a creature moving when it's made out of all these different tentacles? And then I saw these videos of Troy, and I was like, this guy. And so we got to work together and figure out like how the different movements would come together. And then we brought in a Filio, who is a stunt double, who did more of the stunt heavy stuff. But then also when you needed two people in skin suits at once, then they would be together. And he kind of would learn from Troy some of the more kind of basic movements of walking. And then Troy would handle the crazier movements. And so that was just so much fun, and a real blast to work with him. And he even had, I made this, I didn't make it. I worked with these amazing people that make these suits and stuff to make this polar bear outfit for Troy that could only be worn upside down in like when he's walking backwards, which is I was about to say his preferred mode of travel, but that's not true. It's probably still uncomfortable for him, but not in a way like he's able to just do it and like jump and stuff. It's like the craziest things. But this was uncomfortable in a polar bear suit, and we made him do it over and over again. But then and I love the look of practical effects, and I even love the campiness and stuff like that. But for me, this was like kind of pushing it a little bit. So we ended up replacing it with this CG bear, but really kind of inspired by the movements that Troy had kind of created with the bear. And yeah, and then like the shot of that kind of great shot of the intestine traveling up the arm was not intentional. That was something where my assistant editor, and I found this shot at the end of a shot that looked like you could kind of see the officer being wrestled by this bear. And luckily we did have that bear costume now that I think about it, because we had Troy in there to provide the fur. And so we used the tail end of that shot to create the plate for that VFX shot. And then one of my VFX, the creators of the VFX, he actually used his arm as a model. And then so you kind of have the arm shoot up. And so that's all a CG arm with the tentacle kind of going up to really kind of, and that was created really to kind of make clear that these tentacles can go from one creature to another.
It was good. Luke.
Now, not to give away any kind of ending or anything, is there any talks of any kind of sequels or continuations of these films?
Before we even made the movie, I remember someone was like, "Oh, what about a TV show?" And I was like, "Why don't we try and see if we can get this crazy thing off the ground and make it first?" I've got other projects that this was a million learning lessons in the process of making this. And so I'm like, from the second I was finished shooting, I was like, okay, like that's how you make a movie. I'm ready to do this. Like, when can I get a chance to do this for real? Not in the same sense that this wasn't, but I learned so much. And so I am so excited to get on to the next things. But I also love the characters in the world. And as the teenagers get older, I'm like, an older version, like older teenagers fighting aliens actually makes more sense.
Nyla, I hate to kind of we're kind of coming to the end of our time together, but I think we really need to talk about how this film is personal to you. And because you said you talked about how it deals with issues that you felt growing up and things that you were processing and stories that you wish you could have seen as a child when you were falling in love with movies. Can you talk about that for us?
Yeah, definitely. I think that in a way that I really didn't expect, making movies and writing scripts and has been a way to just process things for me. And definitely in the making of this script and working with my co-writer Ryan Cadwin, we had these kind of like therapy sessions almost. And then we were working with these amazing teenagers that were also going through things that felt like they mirrored a lot of things that I was going through when I was a teenager. And when you're at that age, 13, 14, you're trying to figure out who you are and you're trying out these kinds of different things. For me, movies were a big part of that. And you're also, as an Indigenous teenager, trying to figure out where that fits in. And there's layers of shame that you might carry and have to process. And the cast, it was really kind of interesting to be talking with them in the development of the script and seeing how the shame kind of would come through in the language and the way they would speak to about just things in general. They would say, "Oh, that's so Inuk," and mean it in a negative way. Okay, let's unpack this a little bit and make sure that we're using prideful language when we talk about where we come from. And that really is kind of a part of Maika's journey, the character's journey, as well as kind of finding that pride and where she comes from and deciding that it's worth fighting for.
Fantastic. Luke, we got about time for about a 30-second answer. Do you have a question?
Was there any fun like pranks or just goofing around stuff that happened kind of behind the scenes on set?
Oh my gosh, totally. These kids were keeping us on our toes night and day. And Frankie in particular, we had to cut off candy at a certain point on set. And, you know, we've got these craft services and stuff, and we just couldn't have sugar. And at one point, because these kids were getting some per diem, because they were traveling and, you know, working actors, she had some cash. And at one point she just slid over a $20 bill to one of the crew members and just said, keep the snacks coming.
That's fantastic. Real quick, the name SLASHBACK, what does that mean?
Oh gosh, who knows? I know, I'm joking. For me, it is this like fun and nostalgic kind of title that gives a sense of the tone of the movie. But these creatures, you know, they're also these things that are coming after these girls. They slice you open and suck out your blood, and so these are girls that will slash back.
All right, Nyla, this has been such a pleasure speaking with you. SLASHBACK is now, it's in theaters, on digital, on demand. Go check it out. We wish you all the luck and can't wait to see what else you got coming for us. All right, this is Jim Fry and Luke Cheeseman with The Scare Guy Show. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.